Howdy everybody, we're back with some more RPG horror stories. The camera will be working this time. God, I hope, hopefully. Our first story is by Regular Molasses 1993 and is titled, I accidentally messed up the entire camp infiltration because I can't pass a charisma check to save my life. So last night, my friends and I were playing Tyranny of Dragons. We were rescuing this monk guy named Leosin, and my character went off on his own to get information. 4 of the other guys, 3 players and also an NPC traveling with us, got put into an intense training regimen, and the other 2 guys, both are actually players as well, just bullied a singular kobold the entire time. Anyways, I accidentally walked up to a watchtower and they instantly got pissed. I ended up rolling a 3 in a charisma check, and like 10 minutes later I was face to face with this goofy looking lady called Frulam Mondrath. I basically made up this entire story about how bad the security in the camp was, and then I could just leave if they wanted me to, but then guess what? I failed another charisma check by rolling a 4. To be honest, sometimes the dice just want you to fail. Kind of happens. If you fail 2 charisma checks, maybe metagame a little bit and just try not to do any other social stuff for a little bit. Sometimes I find if I'm playing and I'm failing multiple checks in a row, it's kind of a sign to stop doing that check. Either because I'm rolling crappily or the DM is setting the DC decently high, I'm not picking up on it, and them very subconsciously being like, hey, you're not gonna pass this. Stop doing that stupid thing. Stop. So then I got captured. Another one of my teammates also got captured. We'll call him Potential Man for this. And then we were both being interrogated about it, about if we each knew each other, while Leosin, the guy we were supposed to rescue, was legit bleeding and stuff because he got tortured a lot. Potential Man made the shittiest excuse possible, and I lied that I didn't even know Potential Man in the first place and called him a bum in character because low-key my character just doesn't like his party for the most part. Guess who failed the deception check? Me. Anyway, skip a little bit. I had my hamster. My character is a wizard who has 4 tiny animals in his scarf that do his bidding because he's basically really good with animals. Try to eat through my ropes while another teammate, we'll call him Steve, 1v1 this blue dragon guy and ended up killing him. Leosin, the guy who's legit beaten to a pulp, then frees himself as well as me and Potential Man, and the entire party ends up running away from the camp. I decided to save how bad my charisma checks went by challenging Frulam to a 1v1 the next time we met, and then we leveled up to 3, so my spells ended up getting way better with Scorching Ray, Mirror Image, and Misty Step, and hopefully later on I don't get any more charisma checks this unfathomably bad. My DM friend even mentioned that this was the worst possible outcome for the camp because we barely even got info outside of them trying to revive Tiamat, but at least we leveled up. Just goes to show we gotta expect the unexpected, I guess. Some would probably recommend you never split the party, but if you do, I highly recommend splitting off into pairs. It never hurts to have a battle buddy. Or have a plan if you don't show up by X time later. Say like, hey, I'm gonna go out. If I'm not back in 2 hours, send help. Sometimes the dice are gonna go against you, and that's okay. That's all part of the fun of telling a story. OP clearly is gonna look back on this with something like, hey, remember that time my wizard failed 3 charisma checks in a row and got captured? Good times. Alrighty, if you guys are enjoying the video so far or any of my other videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check me out on Twitch as well. Links are down in the description. I stream on Twitch throughout the week and would love to have you guys come and hang out. Next story though. Our next story is going to be from user I Miss Slazo and is titled Vent, Player Ghosted a Year into the Campaign. This is long and kind of aimless, I'm sorry. We've been playing Kane since last November, so almost a year now. I didn't care for it too much at first, but like any hyperfixation, it quickly became my whole life. Wake up, go to work, wait for Kane, go to sleep. That's how I finished my last year of university, blowing off steam for my finals by drawing copious amounts of fan art of my character and situations. For those who are unaware, Kane is a tabletop system created by Tom Bloom, who helped create the Lancer RPG system, which is a mech combat sci-fi system. It's a lot of fun, highly recommend it. I'll probably review it at some point, just haven't gotten around to it. In Kane, though, you play as psychic death soldiers that hunt monstrosities, which is a weird concept, but I'm here for it. We are a very small party. It's just me, the DM, and another girl I'll call Mia, since, you know, missing in action. So Mia has this thing where she goes off and disappears from any messengers or social media. It might be depression related, but she doesn't have the insurance coverage to go to a therapist. As immigrants to EU, we are used to this. She also has a plethora of physical issues. None of them prevent her from even just warning us that she'll be gone for a while though. She never does, preferring just to ghost and not even read messages. She lives with her parents and has a local native boyfriend. I'm saying this because his social status as a native probably makes life better for the both of them. I'm not sure. Personally, I'm not sure exactly how that native boyfriend thing plays into everything, but whatever. I can understand that life gets in the way, or you might be in a funk and not have the energy to play ttrpgs. That being said, unless some sort of emergency occurs where you can't respond to people, you should be able to at least shoot a message to your GM about how you won't be able to make it, and if you're comfortable, tell them why. That way a group of people can reschedule or just not worry about you. If that happened in my campaign where a player just ghosted me out of the blue, I would legit be worried about them. Not necessarily like mad that they couldn't play or worried like, oh no, they're not going to make this session. Like I would be worried like, hey, are they okay? Because first and foremost, I want my players and my friends safe. Anyway, there is absolutely zero reason why she would repeatedly just disappear without saying a word and then reappear as if nothing is going on. We are at a crucial point in our story where the virtues differing plans for Kane's future combine. Her character gets a love interest, Imago? Maybe their name's Imago, who she pulled back from the brink, and my character is literally one session away from confronting his emotionally neglectful father. This is something that we've been building up to for months. I just don't have it in me to deal with this. Neither does the DM. Both of us understand that she's got awful habits as a TTRPG player, always tardy, canceling or rescheduling sessions, and now this ghosting. She's been away for the entire month of October, and I'm so sick of having to be completely stuck on the edge of getting somewhere with the plot because she's away. We see her online status, she just doesn't read or respond to messages, even those that were sent prior to seeing her in person last. Okay, this DM needs to have a conversation with her, especially after the second time this happened. I'd be reaching out to make sure they were okay, and if they ghosted, I'd freeze their character and move on without them. I'm not putting a campaign on hold for over a month because somebody's decided to ghost. I can understand waiting the first time. Y'all are probably trying to figure out what was going on. But if this person isn't going to at least give you a courtesy of, hey, I can't make it, or hey, I'm not really feeling like playing, I need to step out, they're being inconsiderate of everybody else's time and should be removed from the campaign completely. We can't afford to kick her out because we are Cat 4, just completed our 6th hunt, and creating a new character to join the team would be very difficult considering the advanced system. Plus, all potential people that we know could join are almost equally unreliable when it comes to plans. Being autistic and caring so much about a thing that no one else does is such a miserable experience. I am not joking when I say Kane is all I think about. I have my shipping scenarios, my plot scenarios, character dynamics and interactions, and otherwise, and I just cycle through them to get me through the day. It's such an effort to try and talk to people about a thing you love, and them just stonewalling you sucks so much. Okay, I can understand OP's hyperfixation on things. I have a tendency to hyperfixate on Warhammer 40k, or D&D when I have a campaign idea that I'm working in depth on. I'm not personally familiar with Kane and how it plays exactly and how it's balanced, but I feel like the DM could do some wiggling here to make it work and balance it out, or they could play a DMPC if absolutely necessary. I know I harp on DMPCs quite a bit, but if a system for some reason can't be balanced with the necessary amount of players, I would add a DMPC in just this case to get the balance up for those encounters and literally just have them be a background character. This is a time where it would be an okay thing to do. Anyway, every time this happens, I have to presume Mia won't come back. I don't want to live in an empty hope that she does. Even if she does, the game will already have changed. We've had to do so many solo mini sessions, and after a while, it just sucks both for the DM and myself, as no new thoughts are being exchanged. Plus, we can't do anything actually plot significant because she might come back, and then we have to justify her absence or lack of choice in plot developments. I am genuinely tweaking about this. Having to grieve a hyperfixation every other month doesn't make it go away, it just melds into something zombified and kept on life support. I just don't know how to deal with it all. Fan art can only take me this far. I don't know if posting about it will make me feel better, but I thought I'd give it a shot since this isn't anything any therapist would give a shit about realistically. Thanks, hope your day is going better than ours. Okay, personally, I'd be working to get rid of Mia. They're too flaky, and work to expand the number of players available in a campaign. If needed, move to a session every couple weeks to try to help deal with people's schedules. But in general, if you have more players, you can more easily move the story forward and have them take a backseat for a while if necessary. Y'all deserve to get to play in a campaign semi-regularly with people that are interested and available to play. Now, it sounds like they play online, So you should be able to reach out and find more players, be it on like a looking for group post on Roll20 or in a Discord server that is either Kane based or ttrpg related in general. But if you're playing online, you should be able to find people to fill those seats to help bolster your player numbers. So that way you can actively have more stuff happening and have more people available to play. Our last story for the day is going to be from user Accomplished Gold 4641 and is titled, I tried to run Curse of Strahd and accidentally hosted a live action HR violation. I am a woman. I am a dungeon master. According to a certain genre of adult male tabletop player, this means my actual role at the table is to tolerate behavior that would get you escorted out of a Chili's. I just wanted to run Curse of Strahd. What I got instead was 8 months of low-grade sexual harassment, weaponized, it's just roleplay, and one man who genuinely believed my boundaries were a fun optional side quest. For context, the story takes place over about 8 months, which in RPG time is either a single dungeon or an entire failed relationship depending on how you look at it. I've been DMing for around 5 years at this point. I was not new. I knew the rules, I knew how to say no, I knew how to run combat without flipping through the player's handbook like a confused raccoon digging through trash. I had just moved to a new city, wanted to meet people, and foolishly believed that a local game store campaign would be a safe and normal way to do that. Reader, it was not. Because every good horror story needs a cast list, here we go. There was me, the DM, who's in their late 20s, a woman, professional job, speaks incomplete sentences, has been told I have a, quote, calming voice, which will matter later for reasons that are deeply unfortunate. Then there was Dave, the problem, who's in his mid-30s, played D&D before it was cool again, constantly refers to women as females, believes sexism is fake, but also extremely funny. Kyle was the apologist in his early 20s, says things like, that's just how Dave is, and he means well, does nothing, ever. Mark was the quiet guy, perfectly fine human being, just wanted to play a cleric and go home. I would die for Mark. Ethan had a strong theater kid energy, not malicious, just deeply horny in a way that feels like a cry for help. 5 people total, 1 folding table, and a dream that would be crushed like a soda can under a Buick. Session 0 went just fine. This is a lie. It went fine-ish. Dave made a joke about hoping there would be hot barmaids, which I ignored because I was tired and this was a public place, and surely he would calm down once dice were involved. I went over table rules, no sexual violence, no PvP unless agreed upon, no flirting with NPCs unless it served the story, and was not weird. Everyone nodded. Dave smirked. Kyle nodded harder, like enthusiasm could replace boundaries. Dave rolled up a human fighter named Ragnar Stormfist. This matters later because Dave would repeatedly insist that Ragnar was just how he is, in the same way Dave himself was just how he is, which is to say, exhausting. Ethan made a bard named Lirin and immediately asked what the dress code in Barovia was. Mark made a dwarf cleric named Boring with a backstory involving faith and loss that genuinely made me tear up. Kyle made a rogue named Silius with no personality, which would later be filled in by Dave, whether anyone wanted that or not. Okay, OP has written some very eloquent backstory here. I see that we've gone over rules and do's and don'ts, which is good. You want to lay those things out before play begins, and you want ideally all players to agree to it before play begins, so everybody knows the ground rules and expectations for the campaign one-shot. Whatever. Session 1 starts in a tavern. Yes, I know, shut up. I describe the room, the firelight, the sense that something is deeply wrong. Dave interrupts to ask if the barmaids are hot. I say they are people and they are tired. Dave laughs. Ethan laughs. Kyle laughs after a pause, like his laugh had lag. Dave asks if Ragnar can grab one of them playfully. I say no. He says, relax, it's just roleplay. This becomes the refrain. Just roleplay, like it magically absolves everything. I redirect to wolves howling outside, fog rolling in, plot hooks dangling, but Dave spends the rest of the session asking if any female NPCs are into him. None are. He complains that I am making this world unrealistic. This is the moment that I should have kicked him, and if you're reading this yelling, kick him! Congratulations, you're smarter than I was. Okay, there is nothing wrong with starting the story in a tavern. They're a great place to start. Are they tropey? Absolutely, but they are a great place to start a campaign. You can't beat good old tavern. Now, instead of kicking Dave, this would be a good point to reinforce that flirting with NPCs isn't to happen, and to let him know that any passes he makes, that character's just not going to be interested. If he continues, let him know that flirting won't be allowed to happen. If he continues to bitch, He agreed to these rules during session 0. If he then has an issue with it, there's the door. Now, I can understand OP's want to make sure things work and to hope that Dave will correct themselves or settle down, but if there are problems brewing, you need to nip those in the bud, and you don't necessarily have to confront them at the table. You can just do that, after the session. Just be like, hey, Dave, can you hang back real quick? Hey, I noticed you're flirting with a lot of NPCs. That's not going to work. They're not going to be interested in you. We're not doing flirtatious roleplay at the table. Could you tone it down? Because otherwise you're just gumming up everything because I have to tell you no. Quietly lays it out, doesn't cause a scene for them, allows them to correct the issue for the next session. And then if they don't, maybe we look into kicking Dave. By session 3, Dave starts commenting on my voice. Not in a flattering way, in a weird way. You should do ASMR. Your voice is kind of sexy when you describe combat. Say that again, but slower. I shut it down. I say it's inappropriate. Dave says that he's complimenting me. Kyle says nothing. Ethan looks uncomfortable, but still asks if the vampire brides are hot. They are undead. They are horrifying. They eat people. Apparently, this is still hot. Listen, monster lovers are gonna monster love. Unfortunately. Now, we're broaching some weird territory here. We're going from a character acting inappropriately and a player breaking table rules and etiquette to now what is essentially harassment. This would be a good point where I'd recommend standing up for yourself, and if something makes you uncomfortable, saying something about it. Now, this could be aggressive, letting them know that they'll be kicked if they keep acting that way, or, to something more subtle. You could be like, hey, I don't take that as a compliment. Let's focus on the game, not on my voice. If this behavior doesn't stop, will continue to get worse. By session 5, Dave decides Ragnar wants to romance Irina. Fine, canon adjacent. I can work with this. He immediately describes Ragnar putting his hand on her waist. I say she steps back. Dave argues and says a strong woman would appreciate confidence. I tell him I am a woman and I do not appreciate this conversation. He laughs and says, yeah, but you're not like other women. I do not write that down physically, but it is carved into my brain permanently. He then asks if I'm single. I take a break, go to the bathroom, and stare at my reflection, wondering why I picked a hobby that apparently comes with unpaid emotional labor. The in-game harassment escalates. Any woman NPC who speaks more than one sentence gets flirted with. Any rejection is met with, wow, she's a bitch. When introduced as Esmeralda, Dave says she sounds feisty and asks if she wears leather. I say yes because she is a monster hunter. He says, knew it, like he has cracked some ancient code. Ethan joins in sometimes, but in a clueless way. Dave does it like a hobby. Mark messages me privately apologizing. I love Mark. I wish Mark was louder. Okay, again, this really needs to be ended. Dave needs to be told to either rein it in or he is out. He is acting inappropriately and it will continue until he is told to fuck off. And if there are concerns about directly confronting Dave, you can always frame it from, hey, I'm not comfortable with how people are acting at the table. If it continues, I'm out. Because it's completely valid for you as a DM to step away. DMs should not have to suffer through bad D&D either, just to get to play D&D. The out-of-game harassment escalates too. Dave starts sitting closer, commenting on my clothes, asking if I dress like this for the game. I am wearing jeans and a sweater. Kyle finally says something once, which is, dude, chill. Dave responds that I can handle it. Kyle later described himself as, quote, non-confrontational, which is a fun way of saying present but useless. I tell Dave plainly that he needs to stop or leave the table. He laughs and says I am being sensitive. He says women DMs always get a power trip. That one hurt, because it was designed to. Okay, Dave is a dick. Dave needs to leave the table. If Dave won't leave, OP, you need to leave. No need to sit through a sexist little prick trying and failing to flirt with you. If you're at a local game store, you can throw together another group and skip over Dave being allowed to play entirely. Just do that. Session 12 is Castle Ravenloft. Big moment, stakes, atmosphere. Dave derails it immediately by saying Ragnar wants to seduce one of the vampire brides mid-combat. I say no. He argues. I say no again. He says I'm railroading. I tell him very clearly, Dave, this is inappropriate and you need to stop. He says if I cannot handle adult themes, maybe I should not DM. The table goes silent. Ethan looks like he wants to crawl into his dice bag. Kyle stares at his phone. Mark looks furious. I tell Dave to pack it up and leave. He says I'm overreacting. He says everyone else is fine with it. He says this is why women ruin hobbies. Mark stands up and tells him to get the fuck out. Dave leaves, calling me a bitch on the way out. Real class act to the end. Okay, finally somebody steps in here. This is like 12 sessions too late, unfortunately, though. Hindsight's 20/20 and all that, but this should have been nipped in the bud a long time ago. This stuff sucks to do. Confrontation is not fun, but if it doesn't get done, a problem will get worse and worse and worse until it explodes into something way more horrifying than it could have been if you just nipped it in the bud 12 fucking sessions ago. Okay, afterward, Kyle apologizes and says he should have said something earlier. Ethan apologizes and said he did not realize it was that bad. Bullshit. Mark brings me coffee the next session. We continue without Dave. The gang gets better. Shockingly, but the damage is done. I am more guarded. I second guess myself. I wonder if every boundary makes me difficult. Dave messages me weeks later asking if I want a fresh start. I block him. I am posting this because our RPG Horror Stories is full of creepy DM stories and problem players, and I want to be very clear about something. Sometimes the horror story is not one big explosion. Sometimes it is just being a woman at a table and being slowly trained to accept behavior you would never tolerate anywhere else. Just roleplay is not a shield. Silence is not neutrality. And if you are reading this thinking, wow, that guy sounds familiar, sit with that feeling. I still DM, I still love this hobby. I am just much more selective about who gets access to my table, my time, and my patience. And no, the barmaids were never hot. They were retired, just like me. Okay, this is a very interestingly worded story. My hope is when I read these stories, I know I've seen some comments recently about like if people think these are like legitimate stories or not. I've at times questioned if something's a legitimate story or not. I try to get the benefit of the doubt and hope that everything being posted that I find is an actual truthful story and not somebody taking a creative writing class. That being said, this one is some very creative writing in it, and my hope is that OP here is not painting a beautiful fake narrative for internet points, and I'm going to assume that they are not, and that perhaps they talk in a style that is much more dramatized, especially when they are retelling things. That's going to be my hope, at least. So we're going to approach this from the angle that this is a truthful story, at the very least. That being said, I can only fully relate to part of the story, mainly because I tend to be a forever DM. Now, I'm not a woman, so I can't relate to what it's like to be a woman in the hobby, and I'm not going to pretend like I know what it's like. If you are a woman or female presenting or identify as a woman and are comfortable with it, I would love to hear your input in those comments down below. Like, what's your experience been in tabletop or gaming or anything like that in general? Periodically, you do see horror stories, usually about people being sexist pigs to women, or if you spent any time online, if a woman kind of talks in a lobby via voice chat, you often get like 12-year-olds all of a sudden like, oh my God, it's a woman kind of thing. Like, so I know they deal with a lot of crap, don't get me wrong. But I don't know from personal experience as like having to deal with that. It has always been secondhand seeing things or being there when somebody's like being fucking weird and calling them out on it. But what I can relate to is dealing with people being weird, pushing boundaries, and acting inappropriately. You should not have to tolerate people acting like shit or treating others like shit. Tables should be comfortable and welcoming places where everybody treats each other with respect. If someone can't do that, they should not be there at the table. If people are pushing boundaries or acting inappropriately, try to nip it in the bud early, and if it continues, that person needs to be removed, or if they cannot or will not be removed, you need to remove yourself from that situation. Because no D&D is always going to be better than bad D&D. Always. Alright, everybody, that is going to be it for today. I would love to hear your thoughts in those comments down below on any of the stories we talked about. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and catch me on Twitch. Other than that, I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye, everybody.